Hello and welcome to another episode of Back to the Berg, presented by the Podhub Network. Today is a small business spotlight, but it's also special because I'm talking to a friend of mine from college. Today he's from Brownsville, PA. We actually played one high school football game against each other. We'll get into that. But he's also a classmate of mine at Bethany College. And unlike me, he played all 4 years of football at Bethany. That's a common theme on the show. That I only played 1 year, but he also did track and field, and now he works in admissions he's an admissions rep at Wheeling University. But outside of that, he's pursuing a career as a personal trainer, and you could be his next client. So let me introduce you all to my friend, Byron Mayers. Byron, what's up, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm all right. I'm glad we get to talk today.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, man, I've been following up on all your stuff on Twitter and everything, so I'm excited to be on here.
Dude, I appreciate that. But let's get into you. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about Byron. Right. So let's talk about growing up. You're from Brownsville, and I've said this a couple times on the podcast. I didn't know what was 30 minutes outside of like Beaver, PA. So like, tell me what it was like growing up in Brownsville, because I never heard of it until we played you guys senior year of high school.
Yeah. So for those that don't know where Brownsville is, we are located about, I would say honestly, like 10 minutes from Cal U, and then another 15 minutes from Uniontown. So we're like right in the middle of those two places. If you're looking at the grand scheme of things, we're about 55 minutes south of Pittsburgh. Honestly, man, there really isn't much to do in Brownsville at all. Usually, if there was anything, we'd be traveling maybe to like Uniontown, Bell Vernon, Pittsburgh, obviously, because 55 minutes, from nothing isn't that far away of a drive. So, within Brownsville itself, literally nothing but to get in trouble. Like you and your friends are just riding around, just doing stupid high school boy stuff, and that was about it.
Yeah, man, I feel that. I mean, I was lucky to live in a small town with a little bit to do, but just, I had friends, they lived, it was Brighton Township. It was like above Beaver. And that's where it was like, okay, we have nothing to do, and we go hang out with our friends up there. We're like, what do you do? They're like, we kick rocks and throw sticks in the woods. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, no, like literally like growing up, like, depending on like what crowd you was hanging out with kind of dictated like what you're going to do. I say like I grew up pretty diverse. So I was like hanging out with everybody. So one weekend I'm hanging out, in the backwoods of Brownsville, like having bonfires. And then next thing I know, like I'm hanging out with kids, like just on the block, just like chilling, like, just rapping. So,
yeah,
I mean, other than just like hanging out, besides that, a lot of kids like would play basketball. I will say that I'm not a hooper at all. So I kind of just stuck to the sports that I knew and just working out and stuff like that.
So let's get into that. Let's get into the sports that you know. Tell me, what all did you play in high school? Because I mean, obviously you get to college, you kind of have to find like, okay, I'm really good at this. For you, it was football and track. But in high school, what all did you do?
So in high school, same thing, football and track all 4 years. And then actually I spent 2 years in high school playing soccer also.
Oh, okay. So yeah. What I was gonna say something about soccer. I know nothing about soccer. So tell me, like, what position did you play? And then we'll learn from there because you'll teach me.
Yeah. So honestly, I played soccer since I was 4 years old. Believe it or not, that was actually like my first like passion, like love of the game, was like soccer. I had a lot of great coaches growing up, and they helped me out, getting me different tryouts for travel teams and stuff like that. I was able to play my freshman year and junior year in high school. But basically position-wise, I played everywhere from goalie, defense, midfield, striker, just all depended on, which game, who we're going against and what like our need was.
Gotcha. So it's funny because like you said, you started when you were 4 years old.
Yeah.
And we're around young parents like yourself. You're a young parent as well. And you're starting to learn things. And like when the kids get bigger and stuff, I was just on vacation with some family friends, and they have a kid. I want to say he's around 5 or 6. I think they're starting to get him into sports. and they were talking about how soccer is actually really good for like hand-eye, like foot
Coordination. Yeah.
coordination. And I was like, so that's why I played like 2 years of soccer whenever I was 6 years old. It's
Just to
weird.
develop those skills.
Exactly. And I've
Mhm.
never really saw sports as that, as just being a way to develop
Mhm.
like normal motor skills.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll definitely touch base with it, once we get, towards the end with like my personal training. But
Absolutely.
that's one thing I'm like a big advocate for is multi-sport athletes. Just because, like you said, it's weird because I think nowadays people are doing a much better job at, providing those informational, tidbits of, motor skill development, athletic development, and even just like functional, development. But like now, like you said, like now, like kids are just like, oh yeah, like I'm playing soccer because I can barely walk on my toes right now. I can do this or that, like there's little things like that. And just looking at it, like soccer, like you said, great for hand-eye coordination. Same thing with baseball. And then as you kind of start, you know, going up with different sports and like that, football is great for, all your biomechanics and stuff like that. So it is interesting to see like just the information being provided, for like those sports, even at such like a young age, like 4 and 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's get into the two sports that you did go to college for, but
Mhm.
let's talk about how was it in high school? Like, were you always the star player? Were you always the star sprinter? Or did you also do
Yeah.
field events? Did you throw?
No, so we'll go with track. Well, let's start off with football just because
Okay.
football was kind of like the base of everything. Same thing, like soccer. I played football, since I was like 4. Growing up. Believe it or not, I really wasn't the best experience starting off. My freshman year, I actually quit with like 3 games left. As crazy that sounds, somebody that was able to complete 4 years of college. But
Mhm.
I just had terrible coaching experience, and I just like really didn't enjoy it. But then that's when I found track. I did 1 year in track in middle school because that was the only time that was ever provided, was middle school. So I did 1 year in 7th grade, and then 8th grade I was just a little hooligan, and I went to like 2 like conditioning practices and was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I just didn't stick it up, but I was like, I'm not gonna do it. But freshman year, like I said, just didn't have a good experience with football. They like really tried to make me like a quarterback, and I was just like 5'6", 140 pounds at the time, and I didn't have contacts or like wore like rec specs, so I couldn't see. And I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, dude, I don't think this is like a good option for me. Like, also, I never really played quarterback like growing up. I just had a lot of like, bad runnings with my coaches and stuff like that. So fast forward to the springtime, and I joined the track team, and I was just like, all right, I think track's gonna be it because, I mean, even though I feel like you can look at it as a team sport, but it's mainly kind of like an individualized sport,
Yeah.
unless you do like the relays. But outside of that, you do your individual event, and it's either you're good or you're not. It's either you're gonna place or you're just there just to have fun. I started seeing a good bit of success in track. I started off doing the 1, the 2. I believe I did the 4x1 my freshman year, and I was a 4x4 runner. Um, then we got into sophomore year. Um, Went back to the football team, grinded everything out, stuck with it. I remember my coach was just like, "Hey, like you can be like one of the starting running backs. Like we need you to really focus, just on football. You're For me, I don't know how it was for you, but like being a sophomore, hearing that you could start, you're just like, all right, I'm gonna do whatever it takes then. Like,
Yeah.
so I dropped soccer to the side, and I went. Uh, I didn't start running back until like week 3. Um, just had not the best coaching experiences, but dug it out. Had some success, getting some good bit of carries and stuff like that. I was a defensive starter for the whole season. Fast forward, same thing, ran track, starting to place a little bit more, getting a little bit further in the qualifying rounds for the Whippules and stuff like that. And then I think my junior year was honestly my best year for football. I don't think we played you guys yet. I think we played
We
senior
didn't
year.
play. Yeah, we didn't play you guys
Yeah,
until senior year.
yeah. So I was having a lot of success in football my junior year. I finished the season with 997 yards. So 3 yards shy of 1,000 yards. I would have been our first 1,000-yard rusher at that time since like 2000. For some reason, they just quit giving me the ball at the last game and made me go play wideout. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if anybody knows me, I can't catch. So I was just like, all right. So from that point, that's when I started getting some letters and interest for college. But at that time, I was kind of focused with track. I think my junior year, I made a deep running into qualifications for the Whippeals in the 100. Placed a lot throughout the season. I think within our conference, I finished second in the 1 and the 2. I think our 4x1 team might have finished second also. Senior year for football really wasn't the greatest. That's when we played you guys. Man, I still remember playing y'all. That was literally the most miserable first game of my career. Was your quarterback Darius Wise?
Did Darius play quarterback? I don't know if Darius didn't play quarterback, but he was the running back.
Was he the running back? Well, I just knew that kid had the ball, and
yeah,
you guys put up like 40 some points on us like in the first half.
That game gave me my best highlight that I've ever had. Literally,
literally
first offensive play of the game. There was this kid, I don't know who he was, obviously, but I was just like, I'm gonna go balls to the wall. Like, this is senior year, I'm just going balls to the wall. I grabbed this kid and I'm like pushing him, and next thing I know, we're 15 yards down the field, and I just buried his head in the ground. I'm like, that's the greatest thing I've ever done on a football field. I'm like, this won't be topped.
That's play one of your highlight from there on out. Like, I'm gonna make this my first play.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I'm putting like perspective for like the viewers. If anybody knows Brownsville, back when we were in high school, we did not win a single game. So that's what like I was just all right. I'm just here to play football, just do whatever I can. I don't remember my stats for my senior year just because they really weren't that good, and I wasn't like too worried about it or anything like that. Fast forward springtime for track. Like I said, this is why I love track, because it's an individualized sport, and had my best year. I still remember this. I remember before the season, my sprint coach had all the sprinters were like in a little circle, and he was just like, all right, I want you guys to pick a goal for the season, like something you can measure, like keep track of. Everybody's like, oh, I want to run, like a 12 flat. I want to run like a 11.6. I was like, I want to go to states. And he was just like, yeah, I get it, but like, you need to pick a different goal. I was like, I'm going to states.
Yeah.
And he was just like he knew I was stubborn, so he was just like, okay. Going to the season, I think I only lost one meet in the 100. I came in second. In the 1 and the 2 against a kid from Wash High. But from there on out, I was taken first, second, and third. First in the 1, 2, and the 4. Broke my school's record. Ended up running a 10.8.2 in the 100 against kids from West Green. And then ended up just chipping my way. Started just doing everything right. Everything started clicking. And then made it all the way to states. And I missed state finals by, I think it was 0.2 seconds. I missed it because that state's, I believe it's top. I think they took top 3 finishers, and then the next 2 fastest times after that. And I think I got beat out. I came in 4th in my heat, and then a kid ran, like I said, 0.2 seconds faster than me. So I just missed it. for senior year.
Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit. You
Oh
said you
yeah.
had, no, you're fine. Ramble all you want. I saw an opening. I was like, I'm gonna ask this question. But you said you had issues with coaching in high school, and I think, you talk to most kids. There's a lot of us that probably didn't see eye to eye with a coach or
Hmm.
two growing up, and it's like, there comes a time where it's like, why am I still doing this? And I
Yeah.
think in your case it might be obvious, but I want to ask you, it's why, if you're having all these discrepancies and just having issues, it's like, why keep going?
Yeah.
Not
No.
not to put you down, obviously,
No.
but
No.
like,
No.
obviously you did a lot of great things going to state. Like, that's another great example. It's just you had dreams and expectations higher than your coach. And it's
Yeah.
like, what can you tell a young athlete that's going through something like this? Like, what's the best advice you give to them?
Uh, Man, it's a little bit of a tough question, but to kind of answer the first part of why I kept doing it,
Yeah.
um, my grandfather is probably one of the biggest influences in my life. Um, Somebody that's always been there to me, a father figure and stuff like that. And if you ask any of my friends and stuff like that, like they say, hey, like who's one person Byron looks up to? If none of my friends say my pap, then they're really not my friends. They don't know me. So just being in sports, being involved, he's always been the one to take me to practices, tryouts, and stuff like that. Even like in high school for football practices, like it was funny because like this is how like we always knew the time was when my pep would show up for practice. We're like, all right, we must be getting close to like 3 o'clock or whatever, because my pep's pulling up. And he would sit there for high school practice and just watch us practice. And I mean, luckily enough, we only lived like 5 minutes down the road, so like it was no issue for him. But just always being there in my corner and you know, giving me the support that I needed. I just felt like it was more of a, I don't want to say like a tribute, but more like a homage to kind of be successful in sports, just because he put so much time and effort into me growing up, especially being, much older and stuff like that. And we always talked about it too, especially when I had my son. He always said, like when I was kind of at that developmental age of, working your position skills like that with like baseball and stuff like that. He's like, man, I was dang on 65 years old. He's like, and also he worked construction. So like by the time he's done, that's a long day for him. So for me, it was just to keep grinding and, just be successful and make him proud. And for any kid that's honestly going through any situations like that, which there's definitely, I can probably say hundreds of kids that are gonna say, man, like I just don't care for my coaches. I don't like my coaches or anything like that. To be honest, just you got to swallow your ego a little bit, swallow your pride, and just keep putting in that work, keep grinding, because you have a goal that you want to meet at the end of the day. And I think you becoming successful is just going to prove to those coaches, what they were doing wrong. So I think, for those guys, you just gotta just keep grinding away and prove those people wrong.
Well, I'll say this: you're a better role model than I would be, because there are many times
Don't say that.
growing up and stuff with sports where it was like, you had a coach do one thing and you just don't agree with it. I've blown up on coaches growing up.
I'm not seeing that. This is the thing now. That might have been a great answer that I gave. I don't want to get anything twisted. Like I definitely had my fair share of moments of, blowing up on coaches and getting snippy. But also too, you gotta think about it, you know, we were, 15, 16, 17 years old. We think that we're 10 feet tall and we
Yeah.
know everything. And also too, like, I don't know how you would consider yourself, on your team. I would imagine you would consider yourself almost like a captain, like, at least on like the offensive line,
I like
you
to
know.
think that, but I don't think anybody else saw it that
But
way.
still, like you kind of are like put in those positions and stuff like that. And sometimes it just happens, because you just have so much passion and emotion during the game that you really don't know how to control it at that young of an age. Now, like looking back at it, like I compare the way I responded to things in college comparing it to high school, it's two different worlds in a sense, so you really can't be like, yeah, dude, like I don't think I really was the best, me back then, but that's the thing, you really weren't you back then. You're a completely different version of you. So that's what I mean, like it's gonna happen. Now if a coach is gonna know like why you're blowing up on them, like if you let up a big play and the kid's emotional or something like that, like you kind of got to realize like, hey, like this kid might blow up on me, but in turn you got to be like, okay, I can't blow up on him. Like, I need to let him cool off. And if that kid respects you at the end of the day as a coach, he's gonna come up to you and be like, hey, coach, like I was in the wrong, and like I had incidents like that, with my coaches where I was just like, yeah, you see where I was coming from, right? And they're just like, yeah, like just go in there, go make a play. I'm like, all right, cool. So that's the type of things you kind of got to look at it nowadays, with us being, a little bit washed up and retired.
Yeah. Well, you probably still have some left in the tank. Me, on the other hand, I've been sitting on the couch too long. So let's
And
get into your college days. Our
mhm.
college, our collective
Yeah.
days. So we met. When did we meet? We didn't meet in orientation. That's when I met our friend Willie Canters.
Okay.
Met on the football team. We got there
Yeah.
at a time, and man, we all just that pack of us freshman year.
Oh yeah. It
Just
was a group.
yeah,
It was
because
a group for sure.
I was hanging out with Willie because I'd met him
Uh
before,
huh.
and turns out it was like he was friends with Nate, who was roommates with you, and
Uh
you
huh.
6 people in like that one suite or whatever it was.
Yeah. In
And
Cochrane.
we all just hung out there, and like Cochrane was the
Yeah.
place to be. I was the only one that didn't live in Cochrane. I had to always walk over
Yeah.
and hang out. But let's talk about that. And what was it like, transitioning for you into the college football space?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I would say a little bit of my sophomore year, but definitely junior, senior year, I was like the big fish, in the small pond for my high school. I was the star player, got the special treatment, and if Byron didn't want to do this, like we didn't have to, or if Byron got hurt on a rock in the middle of our crappy practice field, like we're moving sides on the practice field. But I wasn't one of those kids that thought that, during the time. I just grabbed my hard hat. I kept working. So when I had the opportunity to play in college, I was kind of studying the roster, like, all right, let's see like how I'm gonna stack up, like what's my chances looking like, this and that. And I was kind of looking at things. I was like, you know what, like I come from an 0-9 program. I'm a freshman. I was like, I'm definitely not gonna start. I was like, I'm probably not gonna be a number two. And then I remember when Coach Garvey and like the rest of the staff was talking about like, you can make the travel squad. At this point, I was just like, I'm probably not going to make the travel squad.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to show up, just work, just train, practice. I'm not going to be one of those arrogant kids that think like these coaches owe it to me. I was like, I'm just going to come here and learn. Remember during camp, when we had to do our little testing and stuff, I think I tested pretty good. I can say in my group I think we split it up defense and offense, if I'm not mistaken, for the bench. I remember I came in right at the end because I had to fill out some paperwork, but I remember there was 225 and 185. And I remember I hopped on 225 and I busted out for like 15 reps. And I went in as a corner. So at the time I was only like 165 pounds. I busted out for 15 and I had a pretty good 40 time. And then, like I said, I was just eager to participate in everything. And next thing I know, boom, I'm like a third string on special teams. I was like, all right, cool. Just kept working. And next thing I know, boom, I'm like a number two guy on some special teams. Next thing I know, I'm on the travel squad. And I was just like, man, at one point during camp, I thought I was going to quit. I remember I called my papa. I was like, man, like, I don't think
Dude,
this
me
is for
too.
me.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I was like, I don't think this is for me. Like this is cool and all, but I think I might just run track, just focus on track, just run it. My pap was just like, hey, he's like, you made it this far, like just keep trying to grind it out. And he was like, if you don't want to do it, if it's not for you, like fine, like I respect your decision, but I was like, all right, I'll just keep going. And the next thing I know, like school starts, first week of game planning for Mount Union, and I made the travel squad. And I was just like, all right, like this is cool. And I remember it was away at Mount Union, and by far probably the best game day experience I ever had, despite the outcome. But I remember driving through Alliance, Ohio, about to get on campus, and it looked like college game day.
Yeah.
Kids out playing cornhole, like big old tailgate. Meanwhile, it's like only 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, this is wow. Like this is really like college football. I was like, I feel like I'm about to play like Alabama or something. I was like, this is cool. And got my chance to get in for some playing time, like third quarter. We were already getting blown out like 40-0 at this point, so it really didn't matter how bad I messed up. Damage was done. But just did my thing and kept practicing good. And then I think by week 3, Coach Upton took a chance on me and made me a starter on kickoff return. And I showed that I could just do my assignments and stuff like that. And I went from starter on kickoff return to starter on kickoff. And then I think I ended up starting on punt return too, freshman year. So that was kind of like my transition. I was just like, all right, like this wasn't so bad after all, and kind of just try to stick it out from there.
Yeah. See, for me, it was like we did the weightlifting tests, right?
Uh-huh.
I was the only lineman that did the 185 because I wasn't strong enough to do 225. And I was like, yeah, that was the turning point. It's like, I'll stick it out for the rest of the year, Dad. But this ain't
no, it's funny because me and John Lee, we always talk about this because he still gets mad. He was like, yeah, dude, he's like, I remember at this point, because he went before me, he was like, I was the only DB to touch 225. And he's like, I got it for 4. And he's like, man, I thought I was like a big shot. And he's like, here comes your little strong self, busted out for 15 reps. And he's like, I was mad. I was like, you gotta step your game up a little bit, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but no, that was definitely like, because like I'm not a big weightlifter anyway. Like I was never into that stuff. I knew it was what I had to do for sports, but then I got in that weight room with all those guys, and everybody's like super hyped up, and I'm like, no, I don't do this. Like I don't get hyped up to lift. Like I dread lifting.
No, see, I was always the opposite. I always I started lifting with my uncle in, I think it was like 7th or 8th grade. And then I don't know, I just always stuck with it. And even I remember my freshman year in high school, after I quit, there's like almost like 3 weeks left of the season, I still would just go in the weight room and I would work out. And I remember like the coaches were like mad. They were still like mad that like I wasn't playing football. They're just like, you can't be in here. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is like the school weight room.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, this is only for the football players. I'm like, all right, whatever. But then I would like just still lift. So that was always one of my go-tos. I always enjoyed lifting regardless.
Well, I would hope, since now you're a personal trainer.
Right. Yeah, I definitely
continue
enjoy it.
with your college path. I think we kind of know how football turned out for you. You were a phenomenal player. Did very well for yourself.
I will appreciate that compliment. I think other people would say differently, but I will take it. Hey,
you're one of my friends, so you're phenomenal.
All right, I appreciate it. I appreciate the slight bias that you have in there.
Well, hey, I'm not a traditional media guy. I'm allowed to have my biases.
All right, hey, I appreciate it. Definitely if it's towards me.
But talk about track and field a little more in college. What was that like? You already mentioned Coach Upton. I think he was also the track coach.
Yeah, so he was.
What was that experience like in college?
Yeah, so even I kind of go back, just being able to participate in both football and track was a big decision when I was deciding on schools. That was like probably like the third question I would ask every like college recruiter. I remember Coach Boscat was my recruiter. And he told me that Coach Upton was the head track coach also. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I remember at orientation, this was the first time that we met, because when I came for a visit, he was traveling for track, obviously. So first time I met him, introduced myself, and we're talking. And he was just real honest with me. He was like, "Hey," he was like, "I got a spot open on the 4x1 team." He was like, "It's yours, but he's like, you got to work for it." And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Say less." I was like, "I'll definitely work for that." And like I said, did my research. They had a pretty successful 4x1 team the year before, and I was the only freshman male sprinter that year. And I think after having a pretty successful indoor season for myself, I got thrown onto the 4x1 team also. But indoor and outdoor wise, well, indoor wise, I I think I placed in the 60 if I'm not mistaken. Fast forward to outdoor, I actually had a terrible ending to my outdoor. I pulled my hamstring in the prelims for the 100. So I had a terrible time with that. And I looked like Ricky from Boys in the Hood when I crossed the finish line. It looked like I got shot in the back. And there was a thing, there's a rule. I don't know if it's all schools are like this. I would imagine all colleges are, but if you qualified for an event, or I think if you're participating in an event, you have to compete in it. So since I qualified for the finals for the 100, I had to compete. Like I couldn't have no contest. So here I am with like a pulled hamstring,
Oh my
literally like
gosh.
less than 24 hours, had it wrapped up. And I was just, Coach Upton was just like, "Hey, look," he was like, "just go ahead, get in the blocks and just jog." He was like, "That's all I need you to do." He's like, "We're going to get points regardless, just jog." And I saw another kid that qualified, just got off running the 400. I looked and I was like, I can beat one person. I'm gonna beat this cat right here. So
Yeah.
so I made sure I busted out a decent little 100 and I made it. But no, freshman track year was decent. Definitely had ups and downs. For our 4x1 team, I just had a lot of injury bugs and stuff like that. But it was honestly a great experience. For indoor, we competed as a 4x2 team, and we broke the school's record. Honestly, this is one of my favorite memories, just because Coach Upton is just a funny dude. Took us to Baldwin Wallace. It was just like a small little meet. I think it was a Friday meet. And he was just like, "Yeah," he's like, "the guys that are on the 4x2 team that have the 4x2 record," he's like, "I don't want them up there anymore." He's like, "So we're gonna beat it today." And I remember it was me, Umar Moore, Kyle Minger, and Andre Butler. And so I was the only freshman. I think two seniors. I think Butler might have been. I think he was only a sophomore, but
Yeah, I think he's younger because that's the only name I recognize.
yeah, yeah. No, Umar was a really good athlete. He was the kicker too. He was the kickoff kicker
Mm,
our freshman
yeah.
year. But yeah, he was an All American triple jumper. I think he had basically all the long and triple jump records until Babacar came our sophomore year. But he was a heck of a runner. And I think Kyle has, I think he has the 2 and the 400 meter for both indoor and outdoor. So just right off the bat, like being around those two guys was a great experience. And then having Butler there, basically who was right underneath Kyle Minger, I was like, this is fun. And we ended up, I think we broke that record by like 4 seconds or something like
Wow.
that. So that was a great experience. But yeah, dude, honestly, I just loved it. Just being around a lot of great people, being able to compete in that was a great time for sure.
Now we're gonna get back to sports, but I feel like I have to ask you, what was your favorite thing to do at Bethany?
My
Whether it was
favorite
on
thing to
the
do.
whether it was on the weekend or what? Because
Uh,
this is something we can relate on. We can explain to the people how great Bethany was at
dude,
times.
nah, I definitely think we caught it at the right time for sure.
Yep.
And the coaster of fun. I think on that roller coaster of fun, we was catching it right at the tippy top.
We were
And
at the
then
end of the old school era of Bethany.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, but honestly, I would say going to Bubba's. Like when you think about Bethany, at least for us, like Bubba's at its peak. Like there's nothing like better than it. Even like just for like a chill night. I remember countless nights that me, Wagon, and Zach Lowe would just hang out at the bar, just drink a pitcher and just like
It's
chit chat with each other.
yeah, it's not even a party. It's like this
Yeah,
is the place to go.
literally like it would be like a Thursday night where there's nothing going on. And it's just like us three and like the five pipeliners that are randomly there,
Yeah.
just hanging out, just like drinking a couple brews. Like I think that was probably one of the best times. Um, but besides that, dude, believe it or not, I was kind of like of a homebody. I was a little bit of a lame. I would just stay in my room, like
Okay. Don't lie,
kind
Byron.
of.
We both went to the same parties.
That's true. But now let's think about it. When you saw me at those parties, it depends on which parties, but I was usually just hanging out, posted up. I would just
No,
have my
you're
little
not wrong there.
whatever every occasion. I would be a little. I would have some extra fun, but overall,
But
I was just
no,
hanging out.
you're right. We were lucky to have Bubba's, and Bubba's was, like I said, that's part of that old school era of,
Yeah,
there's an agreement with the school. It's like, we don't want these kids traveling and drinking, so let them
yeah. I mean,
stay here,
it's
It
definitely
was
like a
very
cool
much just,
aspect.
yeah, it was just looking out for the people in the community, really.
Also too, it's just like one just like hanging out with like Harv and Chuck and Carlo, like just added just a I don't know. It was I don't know. It's like unique. It's a very unique experience to have.
It's like that's where the community like came together. Whether
Yeah, like
whether the townies liked it or not. That's
yeah. I mean, like there's really like no true way to like explain it. Like it's just something that you have to experience like yourself.
yeah.
Because that was like one of the cool things. Like I would always invite my friends from back home to come up, and like none of my friends like end up going to college, but they would come up, had like our little pregame, and then boom, had the Bubba's, and it's just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like you guys can really do this. I'm like, yeah, man, like this is what we do every weekend. Just come down, hang out. And then like you kind of just knew like clockwork, like certain points. Like that's how you can kind of gauge like how the night's gonna go or like where you're at. Like, all right, Cody's singing karaoke. All right, like we're at a good point right now. Like
Yeah.
it's still rising to the peak, and then something crazy happens, and you're like, all right, things are about to
All
go.
right.
Closing time.
We're either going to
All right,
Sigma Nu or Beta. It's
yeah, like let's go Sigma Nu. Go to Sigma Nu.
Oh, dude, I don't know if you remember your first time in Sigma Nu, but I remember my first time in Sigma Nu, and it was as an 18-year-old, it was jarring. Just stepping into that house, and like it's just like it's a really nice house, and it's just like
Yeah,
no hold barred, like nobody cared.
yeah.
You
Like I
know,
said, I don't know. Like,
I remember I went down like to their basement where it was like they
mhm.
tried to have like a neon vibe, and it was like they had like two black lights, so it's like one corner's lit up and the rest of it's pitch black, so it's like what's going on?
Yeah, and
And then
it's
they had
like,
the other room with where they would have the pong set up, and I remember
mhm.
playing pong over there, and I was playing with this one kid he was in Delt, and he was older than me, obviously, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, blah blah blah. And then the next year, he's like a GA for like the Greek, like with Gooch,
Yeah,
doing stuff with Gooch, and I'm like, I've seen this guy wasted before, like, and he
yeah,
works with the school now, like,
yeah. It's
like
like,
that's
yeah,
when
it's like,
reality finally hit me. It's like, oh,
uh-huh.
okay, normal people do this stuff.
Yeah, it's like, how does this work? Like,
Yeah,
man, I just swore I saw this dude singing Carrie Underwood last night. And now he's like telling me I have to fill out these papers. Like, what is
exactly,
this?
exactly.
No, yeah. I would say like Sigma Nu definitely had like that old school fraternity vibe, like with
Absolutely,
aesthetics.
yeah.
Like it's just a big old house. And
It
like,
was literally Animal House.
yeah, like,
That was what it was.
wooden floors and like there's 4 floors. Yeah, like definitely like an old school, like Animal House vibe for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's get back to you
Mhm.
specifically. Let's talk about you. What did you graduate with? Like what was your degree? And then what was your pursuit from there? Like did you have someplace in mind that you wanted to go to but you still had to like work it out,
Mhm.
or did you have a job set up? Like what what got you to the point you're at now? And then we'll get into your
Mm,
personal training.
Yeah, so I actually graduated with a marketing degree. It's funny because
Wait,
I
wait,
have
wait. You
yeah,
were in the communications department?
no, no, see, I wish I was in the communications. I was
Okay.
in the business side of things. So
Oh,
I didn't know until senior year that there's two different marketing tracks.
yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
That's what you
So
said that, and I'm like, what?
yeah, I had no idea until I think literally it might have been like a couple weeks before comps that I found that
Wow.
out. It was Neil Woods because me and
Oh
Neil
yeah.
Woods for like the last like 2 semesters, I think we had almost like 8 classes together. But he's just like, oh yeah, no, like, oh no, it was Josh Linera. That's who it was.
Yeah.
Josh Linera was in the calm part because we had like yeah, like 8 classes together, and he's just like, oh yeah, no, like I'm in the communications track. I'm like, there's a communications track, but yeah, no. So I graduated with a business marketing degree. I absolutely hate my degree, as we'll kind of get into it a little bit later.
Yeah.
But
Hey, I felt the same way after graduating. And like I do
yeah,
something that I like doing, but it's not exactly what I like doing.
yeah, I
I don't
don't
know.
do
I feel like
anything with my degree at all.
yeah, I've been thinking about this. Did you like I feel like after you graduate and you get your degree, you just feel like regret.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
is
no,
that like
no,
okay, so
mine actually,
that's a normal thing.
yeah, no, like mine actually happened like way before graduating. So I'll kind of like
Okay.
go into it and then you can kind of like, pick and choose the questions you want. But it was my junior year and I was sitting in corporate finance and I was like, wow, I absolutely hate this. I hate finance, I hate accounting, I hate numbers. Like I do not want to do this for the rest of my life. But then I was just like, this is literally like spring of my junior year. Like I can't change my major now. Like I'm SOL at this point.
Mhm.
So um my wife at the time, we're basically just sitting there like talking, and she's just like, hey, like you really enjoy like working out and fitness. Like, why don't you make like a fitness Instagram? And I was like, nah, like that's kind of like stupid. Like, I don't want to do that. So like one day, I think once again I was sitting in corporate finance. She texted me. She went to a branch school of Ohio University. It's a little bit past St. Clairsville, OUE. And she texted me while she was in class. She's like, hey, I made you a fitness account like on Instagram. Like, here it is. And I was like, all right. I was like, sure, thanks. And basically from that point, it's kind of how I started getting involved in personal training. But from my other career standpoint, once we graduated, I literally applied for any and every job, just because we were fresh graduates. My
Yeah.
son was 2 months old at this point, and I was like slowly moving into my soon-to-be mother-in-law's house. So I was like, all right, like I just need a job. I was applying for literally everything and anything. That's when I kind of slowly got into personal training a little bit more. Um, but I worked there and Planet Fitness on the weekends. Planet Fitness is a terrible place to work at. It's not that great. Hated it just because whatever shift you interview for, like that's the shift you get. So they only had a
So
weekend
what
shift.
I was gonna say, when did you go
Yeah.
in?
Yeah. It was a weekend shift. So I literally worked every single weekend. But I mean, like the silver lining of it was like the other 5 days, like I was at home, like with my son,
Yeah.
like, but that's not really like the best like life or like for your finances. But like I said, I was still looking for jobs, like actual like career jobs. And then I don't know if I saw it or if my wife saw it, but Wheeling University was hiring a director of residence life, I believe it was. And I applied for it, got called in for the interview. I walked in, and the person interviewing me was Andrew Lewis.
Ah, good old
Yeah,
Andrew,
yeah. So Andrew was
formerly of
in,
Bethany College.
yeah. So like you just said, me and Andrew had ties from Bethany, and then also his husband does cheerleading choreography, and he worked with my wife. My wife's also a cheer coach, so they kind of work together. So I had like basically like double ties,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right. interviewed for the position, and basically Andrew was just like, hey, like you have to like stay here on campus. Like I know you just had a son and this and that. And at this point, I was just like, dude, like I just need a job. Like
Yeah,
I'm okay. I
right.
was like, I'm okay. Like I'll live in a dorm. Like it doesn't matter. Like I'm actually trying to get out, you know? But he was like, hey, like there's another position open on campus for an admissions counselor. He's like, would you be interested? I was just like, yeah, like sure. I was like, he's all right. He's like, I'll set up the interview and we'll kind of go from there. So I think it might have been no more than like a week later, I interviewed for the admissions counselor position. And I think maybe 3 days later, they called me, offered me the position. Actually, when I first started there, I was a graduate admissions rep. So I was working with like the graduate programs, like the MBA, MSN program. So we got a fresh, 22-year-old out of college trying to help, grown people like get a
Yeah.
master's degree. And I was like, all right. But at this point, like a job was a job. A couple months later, the one admissions counselor, he left to become the head track coach. So there was a position opening. We interviewed a couple people. Our whole office actually sat in on the interviews. And I'm not gonna lie, I was playing chess, not checkers, and I made sure we picked a person that I knew would go into the graduate position, so I could move down. And luckily enough, like 3 people in our office voted for her, and that lady got hired. So I took the open position, and she took the graduate role. And from that point on, I've been working with the undergrad population. So basically, all incoming freshmen.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and I wanted to save this for the end, but I'm gonna just talk about it now. I saw recently, I think you posted it or somebody had posted it, that you kind of like everything kind of comes full circle. You were giving a tour to some potential students who I believe they were coming from like they were athletes, and like you were giving them a tour of the school, and it's like it
The
was like you,
Allegheny
yeah,
youth, yeah,
and it was like you kind of it was cool to see because it seemed like you know you're a kid who was an athlete. It was
uh-huh,
you like you said you went through the picking a college
hmm,
process, and now you're helping these other young athletes
yeah,
find their home for the next 4 years.
hmm,
And it just seemed like a really cool experience that you were able to be a part of.
yeah. No, so I actually kind of lucked out with that situation. That program, the Allegheny Youth, I think it's the Allegheny Youth Development Program. Um, I believe it's in like the Pittsburgh inner city area. Um, I know the guy, his name was Coach Chris Taylor. And I think the other guy, his name was Coach Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken. Two very great individuals. I definitely respect and enjoy everything that they're doing, just because as we get into it, I'm really big in helping the youth in all aspects. So they at Coach Chris reached out to the offensive coordinator at Wheeling, because they've been kind of networking and stuff at camps and stuff like that. And he said that he wanted to bring his kids, his youth kids that are all middle school age, I think 6th through 8th grade. And they try to take them out to different colleges and just get them exposed to different environments like that. And Coach Nemo, our OC at Wheeling, he reached out to my director and said that they got kids coming and they would like to have a tour and stuff like that. And my director knows that if it's anything like athletic related, like I'm the go-to guy.
Yeah.
So she basically like gave it to me, told me to put it in my calendar. And honestly, I was very fortunate for that day just because it is crazy how you are gifted things like that. I was having a pretty rough day, just personally. And I kind of completely forgot that I had that just with things I was kind of going through the last couple of days. And literally like hanging out with those kids and seeing them, you know, get so involved and enjoying it. They were asking questions that high school kids don't even ask when they come on tours and stuff like that. So it really was a very great experience. Like you said, kind of goes full circle. Um, one athlete to another athlete, just
Yep.
being able to help these kids kind of get ready and give them some things to think about. Now I know most of them got like another 5, 6 years to start really thinking about this, but like I said, nowadays with more people getting into it, getting more adapted, giving them these kids information like that and exposing them, I think they'll start remembering more stuff like that. So it definitely was a great time for sure.
Yeah. Now let's get into your personal training. I
Yeah.
believe I saw it may not have been you, it may have been somebody else. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But you were working, did you always work at Planet Fitness or did you work at another gym as well?
So I currently am working at another gym. I
Okay.
started off at Planet Fitness. It was strictly, I guess you would say, like, I don't want to say customer relations, but like I was just like a front desk person, just
Yeah.
front desk stuff like that. So during that time too, I applied for a position. It was just like a coaching position or like personal trainer, called OV CrossFit,
Yeah.
right in St.
That was it.
Clairsville.
Yeah.
So I started off there, and basically the owner, well, now my boss, he was just like, yeah, like I want to make this place more than a CrossFit gym. Like I want to kind of give it a little bit more diversity. He's just like, I'll give you the platform and everything that you need. He's like, basically, you just have to do everything, on your own, from a marketing standpoint and stuff like that. He's like, I'll help, I'll pay for what I can, this and that. And I was just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So I've been working there for the last 2 years now at OV CrossFit, and just kind of been doing like personal training and group classes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I remember seeing a post that you made. I don't know if it was on your personal Instagram or your fitness Instagram, but you were training these kids. And it was like,
Mhm.
I think you may have said in the post, like, oh, we're supposed to be training for like this sport or that sport. You're like, sometimes you just got to move. And like, you would have them running around doing tasks. And it's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to do with the sport. Like, you can do whatever to stay active and fit, especially as a
Mhm.
kid. And I think growing up, to me at least, it was like, okay, the only time I can really be active and fit is if I'm playing a sport.
Mhm.
And it seems like you're giving kids another option. It's like you don't have to be playing football. You can go do this. You can go do that.
Yeah. So, no, honestly, man, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Just with all like the research I've been doing and stuff like that, and just looking at what I like to call long-term athletic development, is that free range of play, that you and I used to do when we were, younger. You said you have an older brother, right?
Yeah.
Or we were talking about that earlier. Yeah, so like you and your brother were probably like in the backyard, when you guys were like 5 or 6 or whatever, like running around playing tag, or you're in the neighborhood, jumping over sticks and stuff like that. Like nowadays, kids just want to come home, they throw down their backpack, get on Fortnite, get on Apex, playing COD, whatever the case may be, or they got
It's like what
their
Terry
iPad.
it's like what Terry Grissetti said, the one
Yeah,
interview that you had mentioned to me. He said, we live in the era of finished basements.
yeah.
So these
No,
kids
like
have a
literally.
place inside their house to just go do whatever they want. They don't have to go outside.
Yeah, no, like literally, like that's what, like when me and my wife were looking for houses, like that was like the big thing I wanted. I was like, yeah, we need like a finished basement, like something. But I mean, in turn, like I am fortunate enough that like my son, like he's only 2, but like he loves being outside.
Yeah,
Like we could literally like throw him outside and like he'll play all day out there. But like nowadays, like kids really don't want to do
they don't
stuff
do
like
that.
that. Or even if you look at it from like a school perspective, like kids barely have recess nowadays. If they do have recess, like now with like after COVID, like they really can't do much.
Plus, it's
They
like now
can't do it. Yeah.
they have iPads, they have laptops. Like me,
Yeah.
we grew like I got an iPad in high school towards like it was like the last 2 years of high school. We had iPads. And it was like you'd see
Yeah.
people out at recess or whatever, you know, they give us 15 minutes
Uh-huh.
lunch to go outside, play hacky sack. That's what we used to do. But then
Yeah.
you see a bunch of other people like sitting on their iPads just doing whatever. And it's like
Yeah.
this is the beginning of the end of an era.
Oh yeah. That's why even nowadays, like I remember like I would have personal training sessions with like 8 and 10 year olds, and like they're waiting and they're just playing on their phone. I'm like, so you got a phone already? I
Right?
was like, yeah. Like, what do you mean already? I was just like, dude, like I didn't have a phone until like I was in like high school. And meanwhile, like I had like an iPhone 6, and this kid's like looking at me with like the iPhone 12 Max Pro with, this LED lighting and this and that. I'm like, geez, like you kids like really got it like made, I guess. But yeah, no, so that's the one thing like I really try to introduce to kids is kind of like that free range of play, just because if you really break down, kids playing, there's so many translatable movements that you
Mhm.
see even in professionals. And that's why I think if you kind of look, I always say maybe like probably mid 2000s, like the type of athletes that there were, most of those guys were out playing in the streets.
Yeah.
They're playing, if it was like Bo Jackson, for example.
Yeah, that's exactly who
Like,
I thought of when you
yeah,
said
like
that.
one of my favorite athletes, like you watch that 30 for 30, like this dude is basically a superhero as a kid because he's out throwing rocks, he's jumping cricks, he's running around. Or even if you look at, I always like to use use this example. Like if you look at kids that kind of grew up in like project developments, project housing, like if you go to any of them, like you always see kids playing like touch football
Yep.
or they're playing pickup basketball. And then once those kids usually get to high school, like if hopefully they make it that far, like those are usually your best athletes because they have that natural ability of like free play,
Yep.
and now they can use it as like a structure. So that's why I really try to instill in the kids, just from like a youth standpoint. Obviously, as they get older, we kind of tweak a few things and we start focusing more on like weightlifting and sprint mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, we just went over everything you do with the kids, and it's
Uh-huh.
great. It's you do a great job from what I've seen on social media. You're doing a great job with that. But what do you offer to like a young athlete, like a 13 to 16-year old athlete, or someone who may be going to play college football? What do you offer in the fitness realm?
Yeah, so basically what we're going to be looking at is going to be more of a strength conditioning type of structure. So basically, what you see, guys from Pitt, Alabama, that type of weightlifting program. And the reason why I do this is because I don't know how your weightlifting program was when you was in high school, but I remember we had like amateur bodybuilders like do our like workout plans, and it's just
Interesting.
like, yeah, and it's just like that's those are good workouts. Like if you want to be a bodybuilder. Like looking back at it, like
But
obviously
it's
back
like,
then I was,
how is it going to
yeah,
develop your muscles?
yeah, like back then I was just, oh cool, man, we get the dumbbell bench like 4 sets of 12, like awesome, like all right. Like now it's just like, yeah, it's like way too much volume for like a kid.
Yeah.
So for that 13, I would say the kind of 15, basically just going to be a lot of developmental stuff, just working those mechanics, just getting kids comfortable because honestly, the biggest thing for those kids is body awareness.
Mhm.
You're at that awkward puberty stage and you're not really comfortable with your body. You're still growing, probably growing at a more rapid rate. So we're just doing a lot of body weight stuff, isometric stuff, just getting them comfortable holding those positions and just getting them used to things. Once they get, comfortable and they progress, once they get to like, I would say like 15 through their senior year, that's when we're really hitting the weights hard, depending on if it's in season, off season, preseason, whatever the case may be. Just working on explosiveness, staying healthy, a lot of injury prevention stuff. I shouldn't say prevention because you really can't prevent 100%
Just
of injuries.
kind of just
More
strengthening
yeah,
those muscles
yeah,
to make
just
it
injury,
harder to.
yeah, injury reduction. I
There you
like to
go.
say, just getting kids ready to kind of transition to like the next stage.
Okay, now my last question about it is, what are you gonna do for a guy like me, Byron?
All right,
Guy
for
like
you.
me who's been sitting on his couch, a retired athlete. He wants to be active, doesn't know how. What are you doing for me?
So listen, man, we're gonna start small. All right, very small, because I know you got a pretty different like work schedule, right? You work throughout the night, don't you?
I mean, we'll talk vaguely me, not actually me. People
Yeah, vaguely. Okay. No,
people
honestly,
who are similar to me who were retired athletes. We want to be active. We just don't have the time.
yeah, no,
What are we
honestly,
doing?
I think the first thing that you can do is get active. If you're sitting around a lot, just think of different alternatives. If you're the type of person that looks for the first parking spot at Walmart or Trader Joe's, wherever you go, Maybe let's go for the 10th parking spot in the lot, just to get a couple extra steps in. But you got to think about it. You got to find the one that's close to the buggy cart. So easier for your buggy too. All right.
There you go.
Trips and tips right there. All right. But no, honestly, man, you just gotta get active. You gotta find something and hold yourself to it. Even if it means just getting active for 10, 15 minutes, that's 10 to 15 minutes more than what you've done the day before. And then once we start, giving that good effort for those 10 to 15 minutes, now we're going to get a little bit more consistent with that. And then we're going to start progressively overloading, that 10 to 15 minutes or the weights or the reps, whatever the case may be, depending on your goal. So that's why I always encourage people, just take that small step forward. Even though it's a small one, you're still going forward at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Well, Byron, I want to thank you so much for coming on back to the Berg this week.
I appreciate it, man.
It was nice to catch up with you. It's always fun to catch up with you when I can. Everybody be sure to go follow his fitness Instagram. It's bmayers_fit. Go follow him. And hey, his DMs are open. That's how I got on the podcast. That's how you can get him to be your personal trainer.
Yeah, always open, remote, personal sessions. I do it all right.
He's a versatile guy. He'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. But Byron, thank you for coming on. And I'm glad we could highlight your venture into personal fitness.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Bob.